So, when did you begin playing Pokemon?
Um, um. So when I first played Pokemon, I went over to a friend's house. I remember this specifically. I went over to a friend's house. I believe it was like first grade, maybe like gosh. See, it's a hard question. I'm pretty sure it was first grade. I went over to a friend's house, and he had a crap ton of Game Boy Color games and Game Boy Advance because his parents just kind of, buy him stuff. And he said, "Hey, I've got two copies of this game. Wanna let? Have you ever tried this before?" I said, "No, I have no clue what this is. It's not Super Mario." So, um, I started playing it, and I could barely read at the time. So I was just looking at it like, Charmander, and it's got fire. So Charmander, and that's basically how I started playing. Was I got a copy of Blue from my friend and just kind of started playing it.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess for me, my first time, because, when I got into video games, my first console was the Super Nintendo, and then later I would get my first handheld, which was the Game Boy Color. I did not have the OG black and white Game Boy, but I can't remember my first Game Boy Color games, but I do remember when I got my first Pokemon game, and it was Pokemon Blue, and
Pokemon Blue.
no, I was only like 8, maybe 7 or 8 that I can remember. I can't even remember what time of the year I even got it, but you know, I popped that thing in the Game Boy, and man, everything changed then. Like I went. I was like extreme. I became extreme. That kid who sat in my chair and ate Cheetos and played Pokemon, and because I couldn't stop. And 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 then I guess it even distracted me from school because all I would think about was, man, I can't wait until I get home so I can continue my Pokemon Blue game. And it got to the point where I like would just sneak my Game Boy in my backpack, and I didn't really could really get a chance to do it at school because the whole school thing was a bunch of assholes that wouldn't let me mess with my Game Boy. um, but I would play on the bus, and it was funny enough. On the bus was when I beat Pokemon Blue, because back then my the bus trip, I was always the last one to get off, and it took always an hour to get home. Uh, and I was probably maybe 15 minutes from getting home, and I was at the Pokemon League or whatever, and I was fighting the champion, who it would be red for my game. Um, and I remember it was because my starter was Charmander, and of course I had Charizard, and it was fighting his Blastoise, and it got to the point where I ran out of PP on all of my moves, and it was a struggle match. And I was sweating. I had no health items or anything. Because when you're that age, you don't think of those kind of things.
No.
And I just won. I had the better struggle, I guess. So I won, and I yelled. I said, "I did it! I beat Pokemon Blue" on the bus. And the bus driver looked up at me. He said, "Shut the hell up!" And I'm like, "Oh." and 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 then I celebrated the rest of my victory when I got home, and after that point, I would eventually go on and I got Pokemon Red from my grandfather from Christmas, and then I would get Pokemon Yellow, and I would get the next generation, and so on and so forth. And here I am now, ready for Friday to come here so I can continue. This, the 7-year-old still wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I guess with Sun and Moon, Pokemon's been very. I'm not sure what you'd want to call it. It's just Pokemon's a lot different than it used to be. Um, and we really, a lot of us really lost our interest after, or not lost our interest, but we just haven't felt like any Pokemon game since Gold and Silver has been
right. And I think
I'm not sure what the word for it is. Compelling?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And I think a lot of people feel that way. After Generation 2, everything just never felt the same hype again. At least, I mean, to others, yeah, everyone has their own opinions. But after, because, like I said, I got Gold and Silver for Christmas. Like, I was like, oh yeah, double prizes. And of course, I think it was like a year or 2 years later, I got Crystal as a birthday gift. And I went to a friend's house that night, and I stayed up like the whole night just playing Crystal. And, and and yet again, I did beat, I think it was Pokemon Silver that I beat, at least the main story on the bus, because I remember getting the Kanto, which was a whole incredible thing, because you're like, we're back in this region that we played in the first generation, and all this cool things.
It's a lot different.
Yeah,
it's like an actual sequel.
Yeah.
You didn't think you were getting a sequel, but you actually were.
And then I remember, because I didn't even do my homework. I said screw it, because I spent like that whole evening when I got home with Silver, and I did the same thing with Crystal, but and just played, and I think it maybe had been the next day or two when I got to Mount Silver, and then finding out the last trainer in the game is pretty much you from the first game, and I'm like, whoa. And and then I guess a few years later, when the Game Boy Advance came out, and then Ruby and Sapphire came out, and it felt good getting Pokemon games, but then it just kind of, I guess, I don't know how old I was by then. I know I was in my teens by that time, but I just didn't feel it. And to be honest, I didn't really beat any Generation 3 game until probably a little after the DS came out, when Gen 4 was about to come out. I just didn't get the motivation, but I did eventually get around to finishing up both Pokemon Sapphire and Pokemon Emerald. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, see, for me, when it came to Pokemon, for you it was Gold and Silver. For me, it was definitely Emerald. Emerald was kind of like, I guess for me, I loved Blue. I loved freaking what's it called? I had Gold. It was Gold version.
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't play Crystal like at all. and oh my god, sorry that someone I'll tell you later. Anyways, so That in Rainbow Six Siege, someone just threw a grenade and blew two of my teammates up. It was really stupid. Anyways, but Ruby and Sapphire, I still felt was like just a really good game. You know, I guess I was one of those weird people who thought that the surfing wasn't like a big deal. Um, and I also really like the Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah, the Pokemon were definitely big sellers for me. So, um, I don't know. That was just kind of like the ultimate. Don't forget the Battle Frontier either.
Right.
Something that to this day I've never actually beaten.
Right. Yeah, that's why I would say out of the 3 games for that generation, not counting a remake of Gen 1, but Emerald proved to be pretty good. And Emerald was, like I said, I didn't really finish Sapphire, but when Emerald came out, that's probably where I did finish up a Generation 3 game. Because something about Emerald was just unique, mostly because they combine like the stories of Ruby and Sapphire and all that stuff, and plus you had, you could catch Groudon and Kyogre and Rayquaza and all that stuff, and it was great. And then of course, then it happened. The remakes of Generation 1 came out, Fire Red and Leaf Green, and of course,
Oh yeah,
to some people, why Leaf Green and not like something blue, Crystal
because
Blue?
they don't understand the history of the game.
Because the thing is, I mean, a lot of people, if you're listening to this later on YouTube, and if you're a Pokemon fan, a lot of people would know that in Japan it was red and green, and when Pokemon came over here to North America, we got red and blue. I don't know. I guess a little fun fact was Pokemon Green and Red in Japan, like, especially if you like find a way to play Pokemon Green, like if you import it or whatever, the designs of the Pokemon were like really funky looking. If you had a Japanese version, and
the images were just cringeworthy, looking like for instance Zubat.
Right.
Looking at Zubat, man, it was just ugly.
And then, so they eventually made Pokemon Blue in Japan, and those sprites are the same sprites that you would see in American Red and Blue version. And then, of course, they would eventually get Pokemon Yellow, and then that was like the third Gen 1 sprite redo, which I think out of that generation, I think I really like the Gen 1, the Pokemon Yellow Gen 1 sprites the most. But yeah, Fire Red and Leaf Green, yeah, it was fun going back to Generation 1 with, a Generation 3 redo, and plus like the bonus material that they added, after beating the game, because you had like the islands and whatnot, and
yeah, the Sevi Islands.
Plus, that was also, I mean, Gen 1 and Gen 2 also got these, but this was like when Pokemon events were like starting to happen, like how to get like certain Pokemon like Deoxys or Ho-Oh or Lugia in Fire Red or Leaf Green or Emerald or something like that. You like, I guess at the time, I don't know when, when GameStop was a company that came here, or No, I don't have no idea
It
when.
would have been EB games.
Yeah, I guess it would have been EB Games at the time because you would have to like go there or something, and they would like give you something to put in or something like that, and I
I
didn't.
remember Mystery Gift, the
Yeah,
original Mystery
yeah, it
Gift.
was like the mystery gifts. It was like you were like connected to a cable or something. See, I didn't really do any events until Generation 4 because by that time everything was like wireless, like Wi-Fi. You didn't
Yeah,
need,
I never did any of that Gen 3 event
um
stuff. I didn't know how to do it.
like I mean I like the very first like event Pokemon thing was like Gen 1 and that was like Mew, and I think you had to go to like Toys R Us or something and uh like they did something and got in. And of course, I know the Pokemon Pro and me. I know the Mew glitch trick to get Mew.
Yeah.
I don't need no event. And of course, they did the thing with Celebi. I think in Japan it involved cell phones because those things were just coming out and um. But like I said, I didn't really do any Pokemon events until Generation 4 when Diamond and Pearl came out because it was just so much easier.
I
Um,
know.
and
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 now they
the,
have serial codes and stuff now.
right, and the thing is, they end up redoing the same Pokemon over and over. So it's like, oh, you missed Mew. Well, they're gonna have another one next year. So you know,
They'll just give you random Pokemon.
exactly. And especially with how big it is now, you know, with the right code, you can get even Pokemon pretty easily. Um, but yeah, I guess moving into Gen 4, Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. Um, at that time, I still didn't feel the biggest hype. I mean, I thought it was still a new experience because it was on the DS, and seeing the dual screen. Um, but I didn't beat I didn't if I can recall I didn't beat either Diamond or Pearl, but I did eventually go around and I beat it Platinum, which would lead into a story later. Um, but I don't know, it was different. But like I said, I still didn't have that hype, and like I said, I still don't. So anything with you in Gen 4, when Pokemon on the DS was a thing.
Yeah, Gen 4 with me. Man, I did see I love Gen 4. I thought it was good. It wasn't as good as Gen 3 for me. But I think part of it has to do with your discovery of the games, like your first experience is going to be your best with Pokemon. That's
Right.
usually how it works. And in a lot of those series um so I mean I played Diamond. I got Platinum and Pearl too, and I beat all those. Platinum was definitely fun. It had the what I believe it had a Battle Frontier in it too.
Yeah.
Again, I never beat.
Yeah.
But I mean, I played the crap out of Platinum, and if you know anything about the action replay scene back then, I mean, I was hacking every single Pokemon I could. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a field day with those Gen 4.
Yeah. I remember the action replay, especially for Pokemon, and the things you could do.
Like, walk through walls.
Oh yeah, walk through walls. Want to get to the end of the game? Let's just go. Um,
Yep. See, it's funny. The first time I ever played Diamond, I see. As a kid, I don't know if you ever did this, but as a kid, my first experience, the first three generations, until Emerald, the way I played was, I had my starter, and that was it.
Oh yeah, that's how I was when I was at least with Gen 1. It was a starter, and I would have, random Pokemon I caught, like Spearow or,
Yeah,
Nidoran, but they were used as HM moves.
it's
Uh,
just HM slaves for me.
yeah, and that's why if like Charizard died like in a
It
battle,
was it.
yeah,
That was
because
over.
it's like here, level 7 Spearow, fight this level 69 Rhydon, and I'm like, well, it's over.
Yeah, so my method was basically the Elite Four. So in Emerald, the first time I played Emerald, um, I had a level 77 Blaziken, I believe, when I started challenging the Elite Four. So you know it was ridiculous, and the Pokemon, all the other Pokemon were basically just, uh, what do you want to call it? Like I just used them so I could revive Blaziken whenever he was
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, that was the time to use your revives and full restores and all that shit.
Exactly, they were just there for
Yeah.
that. That's all I used them for. I played that way, like that, for the first 3 generations, and then I had Action Replay for the DS, and I put the codes on for Diamond. Um, and so when I first started playing Pokemon Diamond, my first experience was truly a complete mess, because I played with Action Replay and like all of the codes on, man. We're talking all the codes. I had the walk through walls. I had the freaking rare candies, 100% catch. I mean, they were all on. And so what I would do is my method was, I would only use my Turtwig. Turtwig was my favorite starter. He's basically my favorite starter ever besides Trico. Which is see, I'm so weird. The first 2 generations, it was the fire starter for
Hmm.
me, and then the third and fourth generation, it was the grass starter. Oh, sorry, the third, fourth, and fifth generation, it was the grass starter, and then in the sixth one, it was the fire one again. And I'm about to go back to grass for the seventh game, or the seventh generation. So, I'd had anyways, that's kind of a tangent, but um, the the Action Replay, what I do is I basically use Turtwig / Torterra a lot. And so what I do is, with my other Pokemon, I would just raise them by 10 levels every time I beat a gym. So by the time I had reached the 3rd gym, I had a full team of level 30s. And by the time I was at the 8th gym, they were all like level 100. Just about. I think they're like 90. So you can just see this. Me as a kid going, this isn't very challenging, because I have level 90s challenging the freaking gym leader, the last gym leader. I already caught Dialga, all that. So it's just funny.
Right.
That's just like, it's getting heated over here.
um,
So someone's yelling at someone, cursing.
um, I remember. See, when the DS came out, I was a freshman in high school, and this was that time period. I think this is like everyone's high school. I mean, like Pokemon wasn't like a thing that people talked about for some reason. There was only like a small group of us. I didn't really give a shit, you
Yeah,
know. Because I enjoyed it, I'm gonna play it. If someone called me a faggot, I didn't give a shit. Whatever, you know.
bag.
Whatever. Uh, Pokefag. Um, that reminds me of that. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. I can't think of his name, but his first name is like Joe. But his last name starts with a G. But he does cartoons. He did one called '90s Nick, where he talked about like the '90s, and he did another one on Pokemon. And he talks about when he was a kid. You know, he was playing Pokemon Red and Blue, and then like he got older, and everyone just stopped playing Pokemon, and everyone was like making fun of him. And he's like, they were looking at him and they're like, Pokemon's dumb, and there's one girl's like, Pokemon's gay, and then one kid comes up and he's like, I heard this one time Pokemon in Japan gave all these Japanese kids seizures and they all died. The end. I'm like, I don't know, it's just funny. But like I said, there was a small group of us, and we were here playing Fire Red or Leaf Green because the Game Boy Advance was still a thing. Like the Micro, if you remember that little short period of time, because everyone was still playing that. And I still have it here. The very first DS model, this gray, brick thing, you know, if it fell onto the freaking road, it didn't really do anything. Yeah, and I would be in science class because I was in that time where I just didn't care what was going on in high school, and I was just playing Diamond and Pearl, and then I forget, when was that? Was that I guess it was my junior year. Yeah, because Platinum came out in like '09 or whatever, or '08 or something like that. And after beating the game once, a friend of mine, a close friend, he's like, I'm gonna collect all the Pokemon. At this time there was only like 491, and I was like, you know what? I bet you I could do it before you. And
you did it.
And I did it. I had it set to where, and this is right before Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, and I would start new files on Fire Red and Leaf Green to get their Pokemon so I could transfer them over onto the DS, and like I said, to get certain Pokemon, Heart Gold and Soul Silver weren't out yet, and that's where the GameCube Pokemon titles, Colosseum and XD, would come in, because they had that transfer thing. If you had the transfer between the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube, and I would catch some legendaries like Entei or someone like off from there, and I would transfer them onto Fire Red. I don't know, I think I caught like 60 Hoppips or something and put them all into Colosseum. But yeah, I'd transfer them over, and I went to like the Pokemon events and all this thing, and he was getting close, but yeah, I beat him. It's not on the Platinum file anymore. It took forever, but I ended up moving all the Pokemon over onto Soul Silver after Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out. I mean, I don't know why I haven't moved them over to Pokemon Bank yet. I just been lazy, I guess.
But I have. It's funny. I have Pokemon on my games, like it's insane. I have so much Pokemon that I need to transfer and just haven't done it.
Right.
Like my Heart Gold has a lot of Pokemon that I want to transfer because, in my opinion, I'd say technically the best Pokemon game to ever exist is Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Oh yeah.
because they took Gen 2 and they made them 1,000 times better.
Oh yeah. I remember.
They see. I think the main problem with Pokemon is the personality. It's the fact that the world that you're in, there's so much in it, yet it feels so empty. It has no personality. And one thing that Heart Gold and Soul Silver did was it added a little bit of personality. You go, well, how does it do that? Well, you have to think about it this way. Your Pokemon following you, that was a major piece of, that game, and everyone loved it.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's just funny because it's when you think about it, it's such a trivial thing. Like, that's what you're concerned about? The fact that Pokemon follow you? But it does actually add a lot of character to the game that we wouldn't have otherwise. And that's just one of those. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it's like it's important. I can't really tell you why. It's just character.
Right. Yeah, I really enjoyed Heart Gold and Soul Silver because it's like, oh, holy shit, my childhood has came back. And I think I was a senior in high school, and yeah, that was my senior year, playing Heart Gold, Soul Silver, because I was actually going to Rumsey, and I was taking a Cisco class at the time, and hopefully you don't listen to this. The teacher was kind of not really doing his job, and he just didn't really care, and I didn't really learn much of Cisco, to tell you the truth, because we were just like, everyone was goofing off. I think some kid like even brought in his Xbox and hooked it up somewhere, but because he didn't care. The teacher, I don't even think he works there anymore. That
Oh, I thought you were about to say the teacher didn't even care. I mean, he didn't even work there, and you're like,
well, he pretty much didn't. He didn't
you
care.
called him your teacher, but he doesn't work there.
I don't know. I mean, he was an alright guy, I guess, but yeah, my afternoons at Rumsey was just, well, playing Pokemon Heart Gold. I don't know. It was great. And then like, like catching, legendaries that would come out, from Gen 3 and Gen 4, and the little small bonuses, and yeah, it was good. And of course, like I said, that was my last big Pokemon experience in high school, before I would ship off to community college.
Loser.
And of course,
Yeah, Heart Gold was the bomb. It was the bomb, for real. It was just such a great game. I had so much fun with it. The Pokewalker was a nice little goof off. It was like, I just remember something funny about Heart Gold and Soul Silver is that around the time of those coming out, I had discovered Cerebi.net.
oh, wonderful website.
I know. I'm not even gonna lie. I think I visit that website every day. I'd say out of the 365 days a year, I probably visit it at least 350 times. Right. So I'd say I check that website a little too much. But back then, Cerebi was posting leaks.
Yeah.
And so I would see certain leaks of the game, and it's just excitement, like, holy crap, we've got Heart Gold. And it was like, your Pokemon follow you. I remember that they posted the first images of Heart Gold, and they posted lots of details, and that was just big for me, as in I've never not until then have I ever actually spoiled a Pokemon game, I guess you could say. Maybe besides watching a little bit of a Japanese clip, but whatever. Back before they wanted to release them at the same time. But yeah, I mean that was really during the peak. That was the peak of my Pokemon experience, if you want to call it that.
Right.
It's when I was like, out of every game I'd play, it was definitely that game I played the most. Would have been Diamond, Platinum, and then Heart Gold, Soul Silver. And then after that, everything just went downhill.
Yeah, that's what I was about to lead on to. Because I didn't play Pokemon, after beating like Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I wasn't playing Pokemon for like maybe 2 years or something like that, or maybe a year. And then when they announced the next generation, Gen 5, Pokemon Black and White, I was like, oh, this looks cool, I guess. And then they came out, and yeah,
Huh.
I kind of struggled getting through Pokemon Black. I did beat it pretty quickly. When I wanted to, I guess. But I guess that was their first time where they wanted to do somewhat of a reboot where, the only Pokemon you could get was like just that generation Pokemon. Like you couldn't get like past generation. I mean, unless someone traded something to you, but you couldn't get past generation Pokemon until after you beat the game. And I was like, I don't know. But
And I mean, I see a lot of people bicker about the lack of just having all the new Pokemon. To tell the truth, I honestly that wasn't even my beef with Black and White. Black and White for me was it was boring. To put it bluntly, it was essentially just boring. It didn't have any character. I mean, it had a story that I don't know. The story at that point, I was like, this story is all this game has got. You literally said our freaking region is a diamond, or I'm right on that, right? Isn't it like a diamond?
something like that.
Or I'm not sure what you call that. It was boring. It was terribly linear. You went up, you went left, and then you went right. Look at you. Now, what's interesting though is that Black and White introduced some new features that were good. There were a few new features that I really liked. I know in Black and White 2, specifically, they had, what is it called? It was like that, like shopping district.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah, I remember the shopping district. Where
I don't know why I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that feature was nice. The Black and White city I kind of liked.
Right.
But the problem was you had to keep visiting it.
Right.
Like every day, or else it would die.
Yeah, and they
Through that.
in Generation 5 they also added it was another way you could consider them events, but they were like the dreams or something. Like you would go into this dream area, and that's where like you could catch special dream Pokemon that would become actual Pokemon.
I mean, I did like that feature. I did use it. Um, I kind of thought like, really what would have made that feature great was if it was actually just a cell phone game and it was some kind of companion app to the game. I really think if they had done it through the cell phone, it would have been a lot more successful.
Right.
Um, but I mean, I did like the dream feature.
Right.
It was kind of lackluster, and of course, it was a service that died, which, uh, again, Pokemon and their features.
Um,
Uh, I don't know. It had a lot of character, at least in that respect. That they wanted you to be playing Pokemon when you're not playing Pokemon.
right.
But that's about as far as it went, you know.
Right. When when their sequels came out, Black 2 and White 2, I enjoyed them a bit more than Black and White. And plus, Black 2 was the first time where I decided to do a customized Pokemon run where I would take Pokemon I had um, from older games and bring them in. Um, where I chose Tepig as my starter, but I, of course, what I did was I would hatch the Pokemon from the old games and then bring their, their first forms over onto Black 2, and I had Totodile as my water Pokemon and Trico as my grass. So,
Yeah,
I would end up having Emboar for Alligator and Sceptile, and I thought it was pretty cool, because, I've never done something like that before. Um, and I think the rest of my team was just like Gen 5 Pokemon, but I don't know. It was something cool and something I wanted to do. Uh, but other than that, I guess that was my Generation 5 experience.
yeah. Gen 5 was just like, I don't know. Just I can't quite put my finger on it. What was so bad with it? It just I got so bored with it so quick. Uninterested in its story. I was uninterested in basically every single town that I went to.
Right.
Uh, it was only the post game features that I honestly feel like I enjoyed. I was happier after I just beat the game than actually playing through the game, which is kind of a shame.
Right.
And Black and White 2, I did like better. Um, mostly because it was a little less linear. They did a few interesting things with the region.
Right.
It felt more developed. And I don't know. Again, I can't quite put my finger on it. The designs of the Pokemon, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of those. I really felt, like I said, the region, meh. Uh, the post-feature games I did like, but I felt that they had some severe problems. Like the Black and White City in Black and White just sucked. Well, I mean, it didn't suck, but it was like, I don't know, like I had to visit it every day or else I would lose the progress, and I just thought that was stupid.
Right.
And then in Black and White 2, they got rid of those benefits, I think. And that really sucked too. Because I really liked White Forest's what do we call it? White Forest's shit, I'm trying to think of it. It had like you could like catch Pokemon in it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really liked that. And I really liked uh, black cities battling. You know, you could always go there and fight some pretty powerful trainers. And they kind of got rid of that in the second game, and I was disappointed. Because, you know, again, they made it feel as if there was something different to the version that you bought, even though there actually wasn't, which was a shame. And I do like certain things to be exclusive to other versions because it gives me a reason to play those games, you know, like besides just catching. Oh, you can't catch this Pokemon unless you have this version. Like, I really don't care about that.
Right. So, yeah, I guess that was my community college was Generation 5. But I remember my last semester in community college, I guess maybe my last year at community college, really, because I didn't get them into the end of my last semester. Um, you know, they've at this point the 3DS already has been out, um, and the next generation of Pokemon was coming to it, and
Yeah.
this being Pokemon X and Pokemon Y. And I was like, oh, this is going to be cool, you know, first Pokemon game on the 3DS. And I think, yeah, it was actually my last day at community college, was the same day um, I ended up going to get Pokemon X and Y. And, yeah, and I came
Wow,
home.
your last day was in October?
Yeah, we had like I only had like a few classes left, and they only went like half the semester, so I got done my last semester of community
Okay.
college. It was like mid October, the time X and Y came out. I know it was crazy, but so I got to play them, and then I got to go to my new university, my current state, and I was like, this place sucks, and I just kept on playing X and Y. But I really enjoyed. I did enjoy Generation 6. I thought it was different from the past gen, and I like the legendaries and all that stuff, and the customization for your characters, and I thought the little feature of getting to pick a Gen 1 Pokemon was pretty cool, and it was different. But I still, at that point, I still did not have the same hype I did when, you know, I was in elementary school playing Generation 2. Or, you know, in high school playing Generation, or Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Yeah.
But, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a new beginning for Pokemon. Um, but other than that, you know, that was X and Y for me.
X and Y for me again, another lackluster entry for me. Um, Feature wise, pretty good actually. I don't hate X and Y as much as I, you know, hate Black and White because X and Y actually, you know, introduced a lot of new features, and I like that. And of course, while you know, one thing I did notice when playing is that, or yeah, when I first got the game, one major thing I noticed with them was that there was a great selection of Pokemon, to use,
Oh yeah,
and again coming from freaking Black and White area, it's like, well, they usually don't offer that many good options. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I don't want to insult the games. I guess it was not a bad entry, but it definitely wasn't impressive.
Right.
Like Mega Evolutions was cool, but again, not impressive.
Right.
So yeah. So Mega Evolution, that was cool. I did like that. Again, the region. They did mix up the formula. The progression in X and Y was a lot different. The pacing. Um, but first of all, there is not one notable moment from them. I can't think of one moment where I was sitting there and thinking, "Wow, this is so exciting. This is so interesting." Never once did I ever say that or even think it. I was just like, by the fourth gem, I'm like, huh, this really nothing is going on. So the thing is, I love the graphics. That was one thing. The whole 3D, that was cool and different, and that really added another layer to just the way the game feels.
Mhm.
And so that may be one problem, is that even though they've made a 3D world, they didn't know how to bring it to life. They've been working with that 2D plane so long that they didn't really have a chance to bring the 3D world to life. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the main things why I don't um why I'm not too rough on it, because again, the 3D Mega Evolutions was really cool idea that I really hope that they do make new Mega Evolutions. I'm trying to think. Some of the new Pokemon. One thing that was seriously lame was like 70 new Pokemon or something like that.
Right.
70 new. Man, that was lame. That was pretty lame. And they're probably gonna do it again, but I really didn't like that. Well, the one thing, and that is one thing that's funny about Black and White, is that my thing is, whenever you play a Pokemon game, the funnest thing to do is to discover new Pokemon. Like
Mhm.
that was my thing. Being able to explore just the plethora of Pokemon you could find. Because in Gen 1 it was 150 Pokemon. In Gen 2 they added over 100, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that right? No, yeah, like literally 100.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gen 2 was 100, and then Gen 3 they went. Pow!
I know. Gen 3 they added a crap ton of Pokemon. Um I think Gen 3 it was 386 maybe.
Yeah, about that
So
time.
that was like the total. So that was like 130 Pokemon, I think. That's a shit ton of Pokemon. Um and I believe the other ones had plenty of. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let me see, 493. So yeah, they added another 100.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think here. What was the number that Gen 5 took it to? Was it 649?
I think so, or that, or I'm not 100% sure. Um, let's see here.
Yeah.
Something like
But
that.
anyways, they added lots of new
Yeah,
Pokemon. It was
649.
there was a lot to explore in that, and all the different environments that they put them in. So that was definitely a major letdown of Gen 6. But I am glad that they did remake Ruby and Sapphire, and I thought that they're adding the story and stuff. The Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire were definitely great additions to Pokemon, and they had like, God, the story was way better.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
not as stupid, I guess, to put it bluntly. Uh, if you remember playing the original Ruby and Sapphire and even Emerald, the story was kind of stupid. Because uh, just the fact that the whole Cave of Origin and all that, and that whole what do you want to call it, Groudon event, Groudon / Kyogre event. Um, there was like just no explanation. You know what I mean?
Right.
No real explanation of any of it. They're just kind of like, well, they woke up some legendaries, go catch them,
Where
and then
how
like
the
you had,
remakes like filled in the holes from the old games and
yeah, like 'cause,
gave
like,
them more details and
like you remember when you went to go catch which did you play, Alpha Sapphire or Omega Ruby?
I played Omega Ruby first.
Okay, so then in Omega Ruby, you remember the whole thing with the Hall of, is it called the Hall of Origins? No, that's definitely wrong. I think it was just Origin Cave or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I think Hall of Origin or something. I think that's Arceus. I can't remember.
yeah.
But you know, in the original, you just kind of like, you're just like, oh shit, I'll just walk in, and you just kind of walk in. But then in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, there's actual dialogue. There's again, character to it. There first of all, they're not just like, go walk in this cave. You know, things are happening. They're discussing what happens next. And of course, they added more to it. What do you want to call it? The origin forms, which added an extra layer to that story. That story became a lot more interesting because we found out that it wasn't waking up the legendary that caused all the chaos. It was waking them up and then them turning into their origin form that causes all the chaos.
Right.
So I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting layer that we didn't get with the originals. And that was kind of like, it was interesting that they had done that, because I had noted that very early on while playing. I'm like, they have a lot of story to this. And of course they added the Delta episode, which made Deoxys no longer an actual mythical Pokemon.
Yeah.
I guess technically, which I liked, because let's be honest, there's a lot of mythical Pokemon out there that really don't need to be mythical. You know, Mew and Celebi, great mythical Pokemon. Deoxys, not really. Like, for instance, you know, we've got Darkrai, Arceus, and Shaman, which in my opinion are the best mythical Pokemon.
Right.
Because they actually had events for them. I don't know if you ever goofed off with Action Replay before, but it was really cool going and catching Arceus, actually battling him by running up those stairs or whatever, and Shaman going to the Paradise.
Right.
It gave a little bit of, you know, it's like we have these Pokemon, but these mythical Pokemon, no one ever explains them. They're just like, oh, they're just there and they're special. Enjoy. You know, that's what it feels like. And I don't like that. I think it's stupid, personally.
Right. Yeah. I really enjoyed Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I guess other than that, and now we're here at the present time.
Yeah, I mean, Sun and Moon's gonna be a whole lot of different.
Yeah, you know, less than a week now. You know, just I am ready, and I'm grateful that it's coming out during our break.
I know, good timing if you ask me.
Yeah, because I'm I'm gonna go through that game like crazy. I am ready to see what Sun and Moon. Even though we've already been looking at some of the shit for it, uh, I'm
I
just
mean, here's what we can do. Let's talk no spoilers right now, and then
yeah,
we can talk spoilers once
right,
we emphasis on what we want to do with the spoilers.
right.
When we put emphasis that hey, we're going to talk about some shit that some people do not want to hear.
Right, exactly. Because there are people not like us who ignore everything that they see like leaks and whatnot, and they play it on the good side, and they wait until the games come out and they see for themselves.
Yeah,
I used to be like that, but then I was like, whatever, and I don't know. I'm ready. I'm ready to play Pokemon Sun and Moon. Um, just bring it on. New
yeah. It's the
experience.
Sun and Moon looks interesting. I know from what they've showed us, they look they it just I remember the first trailer. In the first trailer, just watching it, it was really basic, but already I was like, this is different. This is different from what I'm used to. Um, and I'm really glad that they're taking a different approach. Is it a special approach? No, no, not really. I do think that people are saying, "Oh, they're changing up the formula. They're changing up the they are, but it's still very much its roots. We are still getting essentially a Pokemon game where you challenge 8 gyms, but instead you don't challenge 8 gyms.
Yeah,
They're called something else.
it's like the same Pokemon game, but like treating it with a bit of a different formula.
Yeah, they're doing something different. And one thing I really like, just from what we've seen, is just they are adding so much character to these games.
Um,
I mean, it's ridiculous how much character they're adding to these games.
yeah, I think at the moment, for me, especially with everything that's gone up to this point, with the last few days, Um, I really want to pay attention to the story. I want to see what direction they're going to go for this one. Because I have a feeling it's going to be. What I'm hoping, it's going to be pretty big at the end.
Yeah, again, that was one of those things where they were introducing like all these characters and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is going to be an interesting journey because already we can see that it's going to be a little cinematic from what they've showed us, and that's important because I mean, think about it. That's really interesting that they're unlike the other Pokemon games where if anyone ever thought that Pokemon was really trying to tell a story, then they be lying to themselves. It ain't telling no fucking story. But this time around, you really do have that end goal in mind. You know what I mean?
Right. So,
That
you
you
know,
you are stopping this evil team, and this evil team is harnessing essentially what I think is world ending level energy here.
right.
And that's just from what they've showed us. And you've got an evil team, you've got the Ether Foundation, which is interesting. You've just got a lot of different characters playing the role here. You've kind of got that Ruby Sapphire thing going on, where you've got two teams against each other, I guess. I think. I don't know. I haven't played the games. But from everything that they've showed us, officially, it kind of looks that way, which isn't a bad thing. It's pretty cool, actually.
Right. So pretty much, after it, which will be in the next discussion video, if I get disappointed at the end, you'll know. You'll know.
You're a crybaby.
Yeah. But I really do think they're gonna show some crazy stuff this time.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's pretty much, my big Pokemon experience since, the late 90s. If you got anything else you would like to share?
Not nothing too much. If you want to talk about leaks and stuff, I'm cool for that.
No.
You don't want to?
No, I think, especially, I don't want to say something, and if someone watches this later, they'll give me smack. So
They'll be whiny.
yeah, I think we could, like, when we talk about this next time, we could probably talk, like, before we talk about our experiences with the games, we could, like, talk about, like, the things we saw before and what we thought, and then we could, like, talk about, then how we really thought when playing, and then, like, our final thought at the end,
Yeah.
and then, like, maybe a future thing.
When I get the games, I'll be diving in. I'll basically just be diving into them. I mean, I'll probably beat them in the course of like 2 or 3 days. But I'm just gonna basically play them and look for all the secrets and everything. I mean, one thing I always do when I get a Pokemon game is beat the game, and I always go catch all the legendaries and stuff. I do the post-game stuff, so
right.
We'll see. Hopefully there's a good post-game.
Right, and that's
lots to do.
Yeah, I'm hoping for all that, because this will be the first time in a while that I've actually want to do as much as I can, and it's been a while since I wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean it would be nice. Nintendo, the thing about Nintendo is when it comes to post-game, I'm like, they've done the Battle Frontier, and they've done going to another region.
Right.
I know that they don't want to do that, but man, would it be cool, and I think everyone would appreciate it, but whatever.
Right.
Whatever, Nintendo. You do you, Game Freak.
So yeah, that's pretty much everything. I guess I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess next time we'll talk about our experiences with Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon and
yeah, our experiences. How sexual was it?
So, I guess we're good.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna